morning, everyone, and welcome to the Associated Guests. I, as always, am your host, Alpha Animus, here at the Bear in Mind channel. Today, we get into the BAFTA controversy, and ironically, one of the most retarded controversies of the year, and that's saying something considering how this year's been going. And then we get a little bit into some of the things that happened at the State of the Union. Aren't you in for a treat? Let's get into it, starting with the critical drinker.
You know, normally I'd greet the prospect of the BAFTAs, basically a low-rent British version of the Golden Globes with a bunch of celebrities that nobody in America's ever heard of, with about as much enthusiasm as a 3-day corporate seminar about correct spreadsheet usage. But then something strange happened. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were up on stage presenting an award when someone in the audience shouted a very naughty word. A word that I absolutely can't and won't play here on YouTube for obvious reasons, but... well, you get the picture. I mean, credit to Lindo and Jordan on this one. They probably had no fucking idea what was going on, but they were both absolute pros and carried on with the show like nothing had happened.
Yes, 100%. It was horribly awkward. I don't watch award shows. I think they're stupid and retarded. However, every now and then, the Will Smith slap and such things happens. I don't watch the Ricky Gervais ones, even though I'm a big fan of Ricky Gervais. But I do watch his clips over and over and over again just to see everyone else sweat. But this, I will give them that. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were immense pros about this. Certainly more professional than anybody reacting to this on either side of this controversy. But yeah, so I'll let him explain it. But yeah, someone yelled out the N-word, but there's a special circumstance behind the fact that this person yelled out the N-word multiple times.
But who would do such a thing, and why? Well, the man in question was John Davidson, a disability rights campaigner who was in the audience because the movie I Swear, based on his life story, was up for a bunch of awards. Just as a side note, by the way, seriously, go watch that movie. It's absolutely spectacular.
I haven't seen it yet, but it is on the list.
Anyway, John suffers from Tourette's syndrome, which is, and I quote, characterized by sudden, involuntary and repetitive movements and sounds, known as tics. Between 10 and 30% of people with the condition have tics that produce socially unacceptable words such as swearing, known as coprolalia, according to the Tourette's Action Charity. So in layman's terms, it can make you uncontrollably blurt out all kinds of words and phrases that you really wouldn't want to say, often at the most inappropriate of moments. There's no cure and no real way to manage it, so as you can probably imagine, it's a pretty devastating condition to have to live with. In fact, funnily enough, there's literally an entire movie showing how the condition practically destroyed his life.
And if you're wondering, why would he go to an award show if he has Tourette's? The correct answer to that is, why are you ableist? I'm kidding, of course. But the people who are always screaming about people being ableist are the very ones denouncing this person for screaming the N-word uncontrollably at an award show. He's got Tourette's. And again, the people online and even the people in the news are the same exact people who are always pressing if anyone has any kind of disability at all, even ones that don't have anything to do with what we're talking about or any events that happened. These are the people who are always crying out on behalf of these people, quote unquote, on behalf. But in this case, he's a horrible, vicious racist, and I've seen people saying things as stupid as, if I had Tourette's, I would only yell out nice things about how Black Lives Matter and all these other causes because I'm a good fucking person. Madam, you're a retarded person. What part of the word uncontrollable do you not understand? And that's the basic disconnect here, is that people are fucking idiots. And I apologize, I know I'm cussing a lot. I might have Tourette's. I'm kidding, of course, but you have to realize how hilarious it is that this. I don't know. I've heard the word ableist from a lot of these people. There's nothing more ableist than expecting someone with Tourette's to censor themselves completely. And I understand the backlash. I understand people being upset or hurt by it. I know what that word means to a lot of people. On the other hand, these are rich people on stage, for one, and two, the man deserved to be there. His movie, I Swear, which is a great title for a movie that is about Tourette's. I think it's only like 20%. He might get into the stats here later, but I think it's only 20% that has Tourette's have this particular form of Tourette's because it's just tics. It's not all verbal. But we'll continue.
Host Alan Cumming was quick to explain the situation afterwards in an improvised speech that did a lot to settle things.
Big ups on Alan Cummings for that.
Strong and offensive language tonight. Tourette's syndrome is a disability, and the tics you've heard tonight are involuntary, which means the person who has Tourette's syndrome has no control over their language. We apologize if you were offended.
And that
Like a fucking boss. And it's not just because he has one of my favorite accents of all time. It's like he's got a speech impediment and a cool accent all into one. And it's just fantastic. I'm a huge Alan Cummings fan ever since he was Invincible on James Bond GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan. Ever since then, I've watched just about everything that he's in, even the shit.
might well have been the end.
Because he's always great in it, no matter what.
Got hold of the footage, which for some reason the BBC hadn't bothered to bleep out, and then the retardation truly began. As best I can tell, social media seems to be divided into two camps on this one. On the one side are the people who recognise how harmful and offensive the word is, but also accept that the guy who said it couldn't control himself because he suffers from a disability, and that ultimately...
And on the other side, you have people saying, fuck those racist retards.
It was just a very unfortunate situation for all concerned. But on the other hand, there was a different perspective.
Exactly.
You know, it's fascinating to watch people who make it their business to get offended on behalf of others for a living suddenly have
It really
an
is.
unstoppable force of racism.
And I can guarantee you, a majority of these people are people who claim that they're neurodivergent on Instagram. You know who I'm talking about.
Slam into the immovable
Yeah, there's one.
of ableism and just completely lose their minds over it. Suddenly they don't have a pre-written script telling them how to think and feel, and are having to exercise their critical thinking muscles for the first time in their adult lives. And well, many of them have been found wanting.
Well, isn't this a big surprise?
Oh my God, Grace Randolph. Grace Randolph, I don't know what it is. She's been fairly based of late. And I guess the build-up from holding back all of her great retardation has pushed her over the edge into saying some of the most ridiculous shit I've seen in years. Basically that
As
face.
everyone's favourite bad take factory, Grace Randolph, who I'm still not entirely convinced is a real person and not just some half-finished malfunctioning AI that somehow escaped into the real world.
Error.
However, this was her initial take on the situation. No matter how Tourette's works, that the BAFTAs subjected Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo to that is outrageous and shameful.
That doesn't make any fucking sense. The fact that the BAFTAs suggested these two millionaires and fantastic actors, Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan, to a man who has Tourette's syndrome, a disease he can't really manage. And again, I know putting a Tourette's person into any room that's supposed to be quiet is fucking cinema. Oh my God. I didn't have this on my wish list. And never in my life have I needed something so much and never realized it until I received it as this moment.
You know, I'm actually used to people suddenly becoming experts in subjects they have no direct experience with and haven't bothered to do a single minute of research on the moment there's a bit of...
I mean, I do the first part, but I do research. And I know things. Because I insist on knowing about things before I speak on them. And if I don't, I usually post a correction on page 16.
Of political posturing to be done, but it's actually kind of refreshing to have someone openly profess their boundless ignorance like it's some kind of virtue. The thing is, Grace, it's actually quite important how Tourette's works in this case, because how it works is literally the reason this whole situation happened in the first place. It's like a little demon on your shoulder that can suddenly take control of your body whenever it feels like it, and force you to say and do things you absolutely don't think or feel. But who cares about the details, right? She wasn't finished yet either. Oh no, the retardation was in full flow with this one. Tourette's means no filter, which means this man thought it. Despicable. The BAFTAs out here making fools of themselves in the entertainment industry.
That is not what Tourette's means. Tourette's does not mean no filter. It's like a seizure. Albeit a little mini micro seizure a lot of the times, but it's completely involuntary. It does not mean no filter. I mean, who knows? This man could have seen both those very, very talented black actors up there, and it was the first thought that popped in his head. Maybe, but who's to say what any of us would say if we said the first thing that came to our minds? For one thing. But secondly, you're a fucking retarded person. This person has a mental illness. Where's all the, empathy that I'm always hearing about? It depends on who's versus who on these things.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Honestly, Grace, there's only one person making a fool of themselves in this case, and it's not the BAFTAs. The real problem with people like Grace, though, is that they can't understand neurodivergent thinking. For all their...
That was amazing. Can't understand neurodivergent thinking. The C-U-N-T, that's awesome.
High-minded talk of tolerance, empathy, and understanding, they really can't seem to form a mental map of any mind that operates differently from their own. That's why they can't conceive that people might have different opinions from them, different worldviews, or in this case, different ways of processing words and thoughts. Davidson himself even explained the situation the day after the ceremony, saying he was deeply mortified if anyone...
This guy looks like he's from eastern Oklahoma. I'll just leave it at that.
One considers my involuntary
I know he's British.
intentional or to carry any meaning. I've spent my life trying to support and empower the Tourette's community and to teach empathy, kindness and understanding from others, and I'll continue to do so. I chose to leave the auditorium early into the ceremony as I was aware of the distress my tics were causing. Literally, the guy was fucking mortified by what had happened and left just in case it happened again. But I guess that still wasn't good enough for the middle-aged liberal white woman who makes it her business to be offended on behalf of the rest of the world. Back to Mr. Davidson. Considering he knew this was a horrible word he shouted out uncontrollably, he should have done everything he could to keep this from happening. And it's telling that he voluntarily left the event after this, as he, on his own accord, could tell what he had done was horrible.
All right, for those... why does she keep posting on this? This is... Yeah. I keep forgetting this. Reset the settings.
Of course, Mr. Davidson deserves to attend a ceremony where a film about it is being celebrated, but as he preaches understanding and responsibility, I wish he demonstrated those same things himself last night. What?
He has a disease. And I'm not talking like alcoholism disease. This man. You can't make this shit up, man. It's people keep, like, when people just keep talking and talking and you just imagine them digging their own grave on the public landscape, of course. But my God, that's... Like, I always see Tim Allen just imaginarily, using his imagination, just digging. Y'all can't see what I'm doing. So I, too, am retarded. But, yeah. But that's all I see when I hear people going on and on and on about this. Sometimes I see it when I'm talking. But that's mostly just because I'm not really paying that much attention when I say anything.
What?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Well, isn't this a big surprise?
Oh my god.
Fucking can't with this woman, man. I just about had a fucking stroke trying to make sense of this word salads.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Either way, though, the question I would ask you in this case, Grace, is what
So
would
painful.
you have had him do?
Yeah.
Voluntarily exclude himself from the biggest moment of his entire life, where his own life story was being honored and people were finally recognizing the struggles you've been going through for decades? Shit, man, why stop there? Maybe we should just put all the people with disabilities in their own separate area so they don't ruin things for the fine, upstanding folks like you. I'm pretty sure there's a word for that kind of thing, but for the life of me, I just can't seem to place it. You know, all this does make me wonder if Grace and people like her even care about any of this stuff, if they're genuinely offended by the language that was used that night, or if they just love the drama, the chance to virtue signal online for some cheap and hollow validation, the little rush of power that comes from shaming someone into making an apology. I'll let you decide. Personally, when it comes to this complete shit show and everything around it, I believe that both things can be true. You can recognize that words like this have a long and harmful history, but also demonstrate a bit of understanding and maturity towards a man who struggled with moments like this his whole life. Maybe if there's one thing to be taken from all of this, it's that films like I Swear are more important than ever, and maybe, just maybe, we haven't come quite as far in our acceptance of differences as we'd like to believe. Anyway, that's...
Basically, watch the dude's a movie. You might understand things a bit more. I do not... I can't with these people. They're the most backwards logic having dumbass. In that one clip that he had, Courtney Love on her worst day trying to look... Just idiots. I don't get it. But one thing we can all agree on. These two... handled it like fucking champions. Like Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, pinnacle of swagger and just keeping your cool in an intensely impossible situation. So my hat's off to those two gentlemen. And for some reason, I don't know what's been going on with my YouTube. I really need to clear out this playlist. That might be why it's fucking up. Go ahead, Ned. What is happening? Okay. Part 2.
Trump's State of the Union was genius, as it basically was a test for the left. Is your hatred of Trump stronger than your love for him?
And before we get into this, people, I hate these things. I don't even like covering them, but I want to cover stuff like this where people are just being brazen assholes for no reason. Pointing out the two things. When Trump keeps to the script, he is almost like perfectly presidential, almost. So my hat's off to his script writers. And I'm saying that based on the race, or the political party that he's a part of. Sorry, the previous one with a racial slur threw me off for a second. But based off the particular party that he's there to represent, a damn good speech for what he had. It had setups, it had payoffs. However, it's when he goes off script that, oh man. Like saying that the guy who attacked Irina Zarutska was an illegal migrant when he was not. Now, he's let off after his multiple crimes and felonies, especially from a similar system to that which lets a lot of illegals back into the realm of free people, back into out of prison. However, being one does not necessarily make you the other. She was an immigrant, albeit, from all I've seen, a legal immigrant. And he was a very disturbed person. That being said, he got off way too many times. I believe it was 17 times. I think people put out that it was 18, but one of those mug shots was clearly not him. It was another black dude. And I'm just sitting here like, come on, guys. Like, I know they had the same name and they could have been from the same district or court or whatever, but people have the same name in places. I've said this to the left. I'll say it to the right now. Just do better.
Americans, and they failed that test for 90 minutes straight.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support.
And that was a good move, saying if you agree with this statement, stand up and show your support. And then he says something that pretty much everyone should agree with. It's the job of the government to protect its citizens above all others. Not standing up in that definitely looks a certain way. I know it's all... I hate the State of the Union address. See? And only one or two stand up.
Refuse to stand or even clap.
I think Captain Hoodie was the only one that stood up.
To which Trump quickly called them out.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. And enact serious penalties for public officials who block
She should be investigated.
criminal aliens. In many cases,
Honestly, both of them.
murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people.
As those two congresswomen time and time again show us, not only do they refuse to represent Americans, they seem to despise anybody that does, as conservatives eventually drowned out their chance with USA. But then it appears she chants KKK. Nobody seems to hate America more than the people that travel all the way around the globe to come here. Claim their home country is superior in every way, but we need to admit unlimited amounts of people from their country seeking asylum. But if we say we're proud of this country, then we're the Klan. Their logic only sounds stupid because it is stupid. So it wasn't the only time Trump called out the left for not standing for America.
Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
I mean, to say that with that hair and a straight face is humorous.
On Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life, she died instantly.
Not instantly, and that was the sad part. If you saw the continuation right after the stabbing, she didn't die instantly. It was horrible, especially knowing that she died shortly thereafter.
Mrs. Zaretska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand?
As their hypocrisy is sickening, the party that wears Ukrainian flags refusing to stand for a Ukrainian woman who was murdered, proving once again the left has absolutely zero virtues other than everything Trump stands for is evil, therefore they'll represent anything opposite.
And that's one thing I do agree. Look, I don't care what political party you're with, particularly. Obviously, everyone goes through their own shades of lunacy. Conservatives, they're starting to tilt back that way, but they're not quite ahead of where the other side was just a couple short years ago. But if someone does something bad, you call it out. If it's your party, if it's another party, if you have no party, for sure, definitely call everyone out. But if someone does something good, again, whether they're your party or not, and you're in the political sphere especially, you have to point it out. Otherwise, how do I put this delicately? You're a fucking hack. There's no good in you. Like, if you are that party driven to where you agree with every single one of your party's political points, every single thing that they do, no matter what, if you're calling out the other side for every little nitpick, and then someone on your side does something clearly clearly more whatever ist or phobe that you call the other side out on, or something that, like, you call people out for what you call killing babies, and something that your side does causes mass baby death, we'll say. I mean, you have to say something. You have to call it out. Again, otherwise, you're a hack, you're a grifter, you stand for nothing. You're basically Candace Owens. That's what I'll say. Are you Candace Owens? Are you?
Of him, up to and including the murder of innocent immigrant woman.
You know, Candace Owens, the one that says that everything that she disagrees with and doesn't like is fake and gay.
Coming home from work, as they won't stand for that, but will stand for raising taxes.
All Democrats, every single one of them, voted against these really important and very necessary massive tax cuts.
It's literally brain rot at this point, as Trump is basically baiting them with, here's a popular take that Americans love, let's see if they're stupid enough to go against it. As the left's favorite Native American was angry that Trump hasn't said anything about childcare, but to my understanding, he did.
The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception.
Now that's crazy work for the cameraman
yeah.
to cut to Omar when talking about piracy. But remember, Nick Shirley found massive amounts of fraud in Minnesota, with several alleged million-dollar childcare facilities in her community. Many of them has since been closed down, but mysteriously, not a single story has come out about Minnesotans crying over the loss.
I love how he's just
It's
90s
almost
dude
like
style.
They weren't actually serving anybody. It was just fraudulent activity that Trump has since ended, as he's cutting wasteful spending in USAID, ending fraudulent spending in several states, and lowering taxes for American citizens, lessening the burden on American families, all while Democrat politicians show us their true colors, being angry over all of this, as Trump went more into border security.
We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl.
Oh,
as
can we
a
not say
weapon of
terrorist on
mass
YouTube?
destruction.
Blaming Democrats for the crisis.
Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New Scam, open borders for everyone.
Oh, Decoy's talking about basically the same thing that I say. The State of the Union is just... It's all political theater. And it's awful and stupid. And it's basically like the BAFTAs, which is one of the reasons why I put these two stories together. But it's basically it. It's a bunch of self-aggrandizement coming from all sides. But what Decoy is talking about specifically in his title is they did the thing they always do, and they refused to stand up for anything Trump said, even the things that he said that were good, from any political perspective. And so he started saying some things that were clearly bait, and they still didn't stand up. So it's one of those things. Do you break your agreement and stand up, or do you keep to your agreement with your party and all your allies and not standing no matter what the man says, and then possibly look silly or look like you don't care or pay attention or are corrupt, so on and so forth, and make Trump look right or good in the moderates' eyes, which is really what all this should be about. Everyone's always playing to the people who are going to vote for your side regardless, as opposed to the people in the middle who are either just going to tune out or possibly vote for your opponent.
They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen.
As hosting
That's a lot of
angry
murder.
families for the families of those victims has been a focus of his.
These are the angel families that we love, that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored, and I've seen it. And they got up and spoke, and the media literally just turned off the cameras. They didn't want to hear them. It was my first glimpse as to what was happening. These are sick people.
But somehow CNN tries to denigrate them.
We're actually getting a little preview of kind of the theme of his address later today at the White House when he hosts the so-called Angel Moms.
As that trash...
Why would you say so-called angel moms? There's always terrible news every day. We live in a new Great Depression for years. I mean, I definitely don't disagree, and it's a great decade for it.
This should be immediately fired, where CNN is obviously going to criticize everything Trump, but to collaterally attack the families of victims because you don't like border laws is the epitome of why the left is losing the average everyday American, as even the Democrats attending were smart enough to cheer for Medal of Honor recipients. But the idiots at CNN couldn't help themselves.
But he utilized almost like these game show type moments where you're seeing awards being presented.
American soldiers that literally left pieces of themselves behind on battlefields on behalf of defending America, getting recognized for their heroism, or as CNN sees it, a game show type moment. It should be easy to say, hey, that was a nice gesture Trump did. Only if you could put politics aside for a millisecond to simply respect Americans. But they don't like Trump, therefore they don't like Americans, and that's become very apparent. Even when Trump brought out USA's gold medal hockey team to recognize them for their improbable win.
The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team, come on in.
Which at least some of the Democrats stood and cheered for, but the garbage reaction at MSDNC couldn't help themselves but hate it.
And our Olympic athletes, they should not be being used as political props, though, and frankly allow themselves to use.
What's a proxo?
Getting a White House visit after winning a championship is basically tradition. I didn't care when the Dodgers visited Biden after winning the ring, but somehow now the left loses their minds when they went back for Trump. And this is basically only propagated by...
Real quick. I used to be a big fan of Thunderfoot. He had some base points back in the day. However, it's been so long since he said anything of use that I don't remember what I ever watched of his. But while I'm not a big fan of people like Kevin Sorbo either, asking who was president and what party controlled the House and Senate when Irina Zarutska happened about something that happened because of local city, both policy and a direct result of the same judge letting the same person off multiple times merely for racial reasons, and saying that he needed to go to therapy or get severe psychiatric treatment, which I could get behind if she actually did it. But she didn't. She left it in his own hands. She left getting treatment to someone who is severely mentally ill to where they've attacked their own family and community members for years. While I agree that we should push for psychiatric help for a lot of these people, one, psychology has fallen off in the last 5 to 10 years specifically. A lot of people have never believed in it. I do. But we need to be more strict on who can get these degrees, who can get a lot of these jobs. There needs to be some kind of test to like I don't know. I've met a lot of really awful psychiatrists and therapists, and so on and so forth, who were idiots. It's just the same way as I know someone who works for, CPS. She was married to someone I worked with in the past who wouldn't give her kid a bath for days and even sometimes over a week at a time, just because she was too busy and the kid was slightly autistic. And I say slightly, seriously. He was very mildly, barely on the spectrum. I mean, that's a long time to go without giving. Like it was almost 2 weeks at one point. I'm not a fan of this person, and it's the same scenario. Someone who works in a field who is starkly unqualified for anything related to that field. I mean, it's... But, yeah, so Thunderfoot, the fuck, man. Oh, I hate when that happens. There we go.
By the media, as the New York Times will fawn over the American that
Yeah, and this is one thing that baffles me. Like, people will shit on the American team for winning, but they'll get completely behind Eileen Gu, someone who's... I don't even think she's a Chinese dual citizen. I think she's strictly an American citizen who competes for the Chinese. And she's very... I think she's a quarter Chinese, if that. I've never understood this. Like the guys in the NBA who aren't citizens who come here to play for the NBA or whatever. One, I don't think you should be able to play sports or have any of these kind of jobs in a country if you're not an actual citizen. But two, you shouldn't be able to compete in the Olympics if you aren't a citizen of that country. Otherwise, you can just, if you have the financial means, just hire a bunch of people from other countries to compete for you.
Decided to represent China at the Olympics, but loses their mind over Americans that love America. It's almost like the common theme we're saying is there's no virtues or consistency in their thinking. It's just about bringing down America, from refusing to stand for American citizens to downplaying Medal of Honor recipients up to pride in your country is only permissible if it's China. But literally everything Trump brought up was a trap for Democrats.
Why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things. You almost say, what imagination they have. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John.
Refusing to clap for voter ID was expected, even though 80% of Americans, regardless of party, want it. But it just reminds and drives home the imagery of who the left actually represents, and it's not us, as Trump calls out their hypocrisy.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Wants him to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a social security card.
That was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not an exaggeration. Mayor Mamdani actually required it.
And not only does he say you shouldn't have an ID to vote, and require people to show 2 forms of government ID to shovel snow, and I know they're paying these people or whatever, but also on the far end of that, if they didn't finish the job within a certain amount of time, they were heavily penalized. Okay.
The blizzard hit NYC. They desperately needed more assistance, as residents got blocked in on their streets. Public transportation was canceled without warning, and even when the city arrived to plow the streets, they plowed into vehicles instead. As the great socialism experiment,
he's brave running on that ice.
City is already failing 2 months in, but every single Democrat will applaud Mamdani as a future of their party. Meanwhile, screaming and shouting, screeching and pouting at all the positive statements at Trump's State of the Union, proving they would prefer that Americans suffer over giving Trump a win, no matter how insignificant or significant it is. But tragically, a lot of their base is too stupid to even notice.
Well,
college kids are telling us Trump's State of the Union didn't go so well. The only problem? It's tomorrow. Rate Trump's State of the Union speech 1 out of 10. 1's the worst, 10's the best. Negatives. What about the State of the Union last night? 1 to 10.
It was like a 1 or 2. I mean, it was all over the place.
How did Trump do at the State of the Union?
0. It's one thing to...
And this stuff's always hilarious to me. Asking people how something went the day before it actually happens. It's comedy gold. I mean, I hate that it's the Daily Wire doing this because I'm not a big fan. But, you know, again, flowers where they're due.
Complete ignorance, admitting that you're apolitical, but a lot of these college idiots find it more important to pledge allegiance to their political party than actually be aware of what's actually happening. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary...
And it's basically just, look, I'm okay with people not liking Trump, Biden, whatever. But you have to know what you're talking about. You can't just not like everything someone does without hearing any kind of nuance to it. If you're a regular voter, whatever. If you're not really paying attention, sure, then don't get super mad when someone disagrees with you on something, mostly because you don't know what you agree or disagree with. But it's just frustrating. As frustrating as things like this. Nigeria becomes the first country to ban white and British models in all advertising. I don't really care. And I can completely get behind, like, if there are no citizens, like not using British, sure, whatever. You're under no need to do anything. And I don't know, let's see something real quick. White. Hold on, we'll do this. I'll do it on my phone real quick. What percentage of Nigeria is white?
Nigeria is an incredibly diverse country with hundreds of ethnic groups, the largest being Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, and others. People of European descent, or white individuals, make up only a very tiny fraction of the population, less than 1%. While no official census specifically quantifies it, the percentage is negligible.
Okay, so less than 1%. So I don't really care. It's kind of fucked up that they've outlawed it outright. I wouldn't care. Speaking of the Great Depression, have you ever tried a depression cake? I mean, the only kind of depression cake I know is when I cram it in my face when I'm sad. But no, as far as this Nigeria thing goes, I don't care. There's less than 1% white there. It's kind of stupid that they outlaw it outright or they ban it outright. Just don't hire them or have one token white guy or white girl somewhere here in the back, maybe, or be the one holding the camera so they're still a part of things too. But I don't care. Especially, like, if the law's on the books, sure, I care a little. But for the most part, I mean, come on. But that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say about that. I'm going to go get ready for work. Y'all have a fantastic day. This is Alfie Animus with the Associated Guest.